Oh man, dude,
I'll sit there. In America.
Do they have Safeways? They don't have Safeways in America.
Yeah. We have safe houses. The same thing.
Wait,
Safe
are you talking about the grocery store? Safeway?
Safe injection sites.
Yeah, safe injection sites. That's what you're talking about, right?
Is that where you go to your singles night on Wednesday?
Yeah, the methadone clinic.
That's Cody, the tenor definitely changed when you came over to this show, hey?
100%.
I'd say probably the last 2 weeks, and I didn't get a chance to listen because Chase refuses to tweet out the podcast version of this show, so I didn't get a chance to listen. Thanks. So I didn't get a chance to listen to the last 2 episodes. I'm going to guess there was a lot less Canadian bashing and a lot less dating advice.
You know what we talked more about, Shane? Football.
Oh, let's try that. Let's do that. Yeah. I'm in for that. Let's do that.
We actually talked a lot about football while you were away. It's weird.
That's all we're going to do tonight. Nothing but fantasy, baby.
You're just going to have a nice, serious, hands in the dirt takes all night?
Let's do it. No joking.
Cody, how are you good? Are you well fed? Are you well watered? You had your 10 minutes away after we literally just did a show. Look at that, brother. You got your Gatorade? You need an IV?
No, water. I do need an IV though. That'd be awesome.
If you could have an IV of anything, what would you want your IV to be? It can be like a liquid. It can be a solid. Anything you want.
Adrenaline.
Gaseous substance. Adrenaline.
Ooh,
you will die.
Ooh.
I want Chase's IV to be filled with shaving cream so he gets that freaking duster wiped off his face.
What are you talking about, man? This thing is pure sex. Like, oh man, it just has sex written all throughout it. Like, oh God, you should feel it. I'm gonna let you feel it one day.
I'm good.
You want me to feel your sex?
I want you to feel my sex, Shane.
You're coming to.
That's fantastic.
You look like my
Cody. I apologize, man. I invited you on the show to talk about the NFC North. All of a sudden, look what's breaking out.
So let's get into it.
Yeah.
Cody, how's it going, buddy?
I know what's up. But
Rashad Bateman died today, so that was unfortunate.
Man,
it's depressing as fuck.
Oh God.
So Chase, how does this affect your ongoing Bateman theory that he has the ability to change height? So do you think that's why he injured his groin? Is because he was trying to resist his natural downsizing, and so then it created a soft tissue injury?
I honestly believe that he could come back shorter, when he comes back from the injury. I think it's very, very possible he comes back at 5'11". So we actually have to see how that goes and definitely measure him when he comes back. Because if he's coming back and he's like, shorter than Marquise Brown, we're gonna start having issues.
But that would be good because then his BMI would increase. And we all know that BMI is the most important indicator there is in all football for a wide receiver.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Besides landing spot.
landing spot matters.
All right, landing spots.
This is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jacob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
Welcome into Shane. Wow. Professional football show here. We're excited tonight. We got Chase with his mustache back, his occasional guest host. We got Shane finally back in the fold with us after 2 weeks away. We've just been yearning for his eventual return. And then most importantly, he was just with me on Early Risers on the Roto Underworld Network just 15 minutes ago, and he's now back with us for a doubleheader. Cody Carpentier at Carpentier NFL. How are you doing tonight?
Doing fantastic, man. We just got done drafting the winning roster on the puppy too. I don't know what could
breaking news.
I'm having a good time, man. How you guys doing?
We are doing good, man. Cody, if anyone is not following Cody at Carpentier NFL, he is, of course, the host of Early Risers. He's the host of Undercovered Prospects. Are you officially the host of the Breakout Finder now, too? Has Ryan moved to 100th life, or what are you doing with that?
I'm gonna keep that one under wraps. We're working on that one right now. So I'm not gonna throw anything out there yet.
That's HIPAA. That's
HIPAA. That shows that show's finished for the season, but returning next spring will be the breakout finder.
All right, so you're doing a lot of stuff over at Roto Underworld. Definitely go check out Cody. Look, one of the things that you're always talking about is that when a player has that dog in them. I see you're tweeting out the screenshots. You're trying to quantify the dog coefficient. What exactly are you talking about when you talk about a player who has that dog in them?
It's kind of weird thing, right? It's not like he's a dog, like he's a good player or he's whatever it is. It's no metric. There's no nothing. It's like everything's like outside of football. It's you got to listen to interviews, off field, social media, YouTube. That's kind of like a side thing that I just kind of do and pay attention to. And you can see it on field too, but like Elijah Moore, Jarvis Landry, Derrick Henry, Marshawn Lynch, you kind of know it when you see it. And that's the one thing I love about Elijah Moore, why I had him top 5 this year easily. And I was thinking about putting him number 2, but it's like it's the dog mentality and the will to like just know you're not going to lose. It's like inevitable that you're not going to be a bust. You're not good. Like you saw this with like N'Keal Harry. He just didn't have it. DK Metcalf did. DK Metcalf, we saw him attack everything, ignore the doubters. N'Keal Harry just kind of went through the process and did what he did. Laquan Treadwell, another one that you saw did not have any dog in him. He just kind of was there moseying around doing his thing. That's a guy I'm fading at all times, right? Elijah Moore, when you hear him and you see him crying when he's talking to Odell Beckham about how bad he wants it, and you see these guys off-field training as hard as they do, it's just clear as day. Rondell Moore, exactly from the chat. Rondell Moore, dog.
No, Cody,
period.
Cody, you can definitely swear on this show, man.
It's just like it's
more than permitted. It's encouraged.
It's like even like a couple guys I've tweeted out about before, like Quentin Nelson. You see it. Third surgery of the offseason in the books. No time for pity. Fuck that. Truth is, I'm thankful. Like just attacking it. Like dude had surgery yesterday. He's already attacking it. Like
he was like already hanging out at practice today. The guy's an absolute fucking legend. Like I love that dude.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't just like you don't get all pro each of your first 3 years in the NFL by just showing up. Like that's not how that works. And that's what I love about this whole process is there's different ways and angles that you can attack. And that's just one of the small areas that I like to look at.
I love it, man. Look, one of my favorite shows in the off season was Undercover Prospects, because you log into twitter.com and you see so much of the same debates all the time about the same dudes. And you're out here grinding guys that most people have never even heard of in their life. And so, if you're out here playing in these 20, 25 bench dynasty leagues, you're like, what the hell am I going to do with this last roster spot? Am I going to put some dusty old running back on my roster, some guy who has been? No, you're going to listen to Undercover Prospects. You're going to listen to Cody, and you're going to put some of these guys on. Specifically, we have like a few guys that we really, really share in common. We love Quez. We love Michael. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Is it Strawn or Strachan?
Strawn. I always said
Strachan. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I always said Strachan, and I was wrong. I talked to him. I actually DM'd him, and he said it was Strawn. So yeah,
Strawn. And then of course Callaway, who's breaking out right now. What do you look for when you're trying to figure out who's making the list for your Undercover Prospects? What are the things that you're trying to find that nobody else is catching on to?
It's the underrated guy, Colin Johnson. That's another good one. Don't
tell Chase that. You don't want to tell Chase that.
I can talk deep prospects all day long.
Yeah,
and Shane will literally die down there.
Colin Johnson wasn't a deep prospect though. He's a guy that
he was a Debbie guy.
Yeah, he's a guy that when he burst onto the scene, people thought he was going to be like a first-round NFL draft pick. Same thing with DPJ. I mean, if we're going to call Colin Johnson, sleeper. Well, that's not the word you fucking used. You know what word you used. He wasn't a deep prospect. Go away, Chase.
Cody, what are you looking for?
Talk about Joe Reed all day if you want.
Oh my God.
You're going to bring up Max Borghi? Max Borghi.
Yeah, Joe Reed is undercovered because he doesn't need to be covered. But
hey, Joe Reed was my guy in 2019.
Really? You love Joe Reed too?
Joe Reed was one that I wanted to see him land somewhere with an opportunity, and I thought he did, and they didn't. I mean, it was a weird situation where like they gave him a few kick returns. He had a little rib injury. He just never got going. Never really. He had one fucking target the whole year. Like it was.
No, Usage inside the 5 a couple times too. He actually scored a touchdown on one of them. So like they were using him as like a gadget player, but then they were making him practice with the running backs in last offseason. It was just a strange situation. But I mean, he has almost identical measurables to AJ Brown, and he's able to return the ball, and he was in an offense that didn't pass a lot. So it's just a tough situation regardless. But yeah. I'm not going to talk about Jerry because it's pointless at this point. But
yeah, that was literally my angle last year. Was like, this dude's literally built like AJ Brown. Why not? But the reason why not was because he was so prolific in the special teams game, and so like the situation in Virginia was just dog shit. But like, he just wasn't built for it, and that's just those guys you miss on. Those guys where it's like they look like they're so inspiring, and he's now almost 24 years old. He hasn't done jack shit. We're out on him. But like, to answer your question, what do I look for? Like, it's literally those undercovered guys, like a Jacob Harris who played soccer and then didn't go to school and then goes back home, and he's at 4 different schools, and now you see him test out and he's literally 90th percentile on a 99th, 100th percentile across the board. And he's in the Rams now, and now he's like making plays in training camp. That's a guy I'm looking at. Mike Strawn making plays in training camp. The reason I liked him, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons at Charleston. Nobody had ever done that at Charleston. Charleston's a small school, obviously. He got drafted. He tested above average. He was a sprinter in college, 3-time conference champion in the 100 and 200-meter dash. Like, that's a few things. Like, I love the big dudes. Everyone loves the big X receivers. And if you can find one of those guys that can eventually get to that spot, that's like obviously – with Jacob Harris, that's what I wanted. But now they're obviously going to push him to tight end. But him, Mike Strawn, even a Stevie Scott, 10 touchdowns as a freshman at Indiana, a couple 1,000-yard seasons. That's a guy he tested out like shit. And that's the one thing that, undercover prospects is before the combine, so we don't get to see a lot of that. But this is kind of like I love metrics, but at the same time, I'll watch some highlights. I'll watch some games. I'll watch stuff like that to get just a little insight on different things. But then you see Stevie Scott, you're like, this looks good, and then he runs a 4.71, and you're like, come on, bro. But him, even Chris Evans. Chris Evans is a guy that is talking to Ray GQ, and he talked to a couple people that know a couple things and know a couple people. And the NFL actually was higher on Chris Evans than a lot of the draft analysts. Chris Evans, actually, a couple NFL teams had him above. Wait for it, Travis Etienne.
Wow.
Before the season started this last year. And even with that, Travis Etienne had a great couple years at Clemson before 2020. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it. There's a lot of guys you can look at that even fall through, like a Kylan Hill. He didn't play in 2020.
Right.
So what? Like there's the profile's still there. Kay Johnson, there's a lot of guys here that just have the profiles that people ignore because they're too focused on getting the top 10 right. Everyone's like, oh, this is my top 10. Who gives a fuck about your top 10? What's about your top 50? Tell me about 35 through 50. That's how you're going to build your dynasty team.
The Salvin Ahmeds of the world. Right, Shane?
Exactly. That's how you win games. That's how you build a roster.
I mean, I just trade those guys for better assets and then get more high early first-round draft picks because
but that's
I got a better chance.
That's how you get these assets, right?
Yeah,
you get these guys. Like,
you get them for free.
If Marcus Callaway posts 100 yards in week 1, you know what you'll hear? That's the sound of me acquiring 22 for like second-round picks in a week. Yeah. Like that's my immediate reaction to any of these guys is, all right, how quickly can I flip this guy? Because as soon as unfortunately, when you don't have the draft capital, as soon as a team can cut and look to someone else, they will. And like Laquan Treadwell kept getting chance after chance after chance, but
still is.
Yeah, he's still in the league somehow. I don't even know why, but Nelson Aguilar was a guy in Philly like that. Like you're going to get more chances than a guy like Quez Watkins. But yeah, if I can get a third-round pick for Quez Watkins because he's balling out at camp and every other Eagle receiver is dying except for Devontae Smith, and that's just because he's not on the field. Yeah, I'll flip him later.
Man, anyone who's in leagues with me, what you got about a week ago was if you got a sleeper notification, that sleeper notification just said RTDB has picked up Quez Watkins for $1 fab because I already had him in a few leagues. And you guys know, I'm pretty sure I picked up the league that I'm in with both of you. I might have even already had him. I went on a Quez Watkins buying spree. Like I really liked Watkins last year. I liked him more than John Hightower. I dropped him in a few places last year when they started playing Hightower over him. And then as soon as I saw the blurb that he's going to be getting those first team reps, I was like, yes, please get Quez back on my rosters. Come home, buddy. You had him on call. I was still in talks with his agent, right? I'm like, hey, I'm going to have to let you go for a little bit. As soon as he got first team reps, got on the phone with his agent. I said, I would like your client, Quez Watkins, to please report to training camp on my Dynasty roster. He can immediately take a spot on the bench. And we worked out a nice veteran minimum contract for Quez. Cody, talk about Quez Watkins for like 30 seconds, because you're the only guy on this app I know that loves Quez even more than I do.
There's some people on the old Bird app that remember me when I had 200 followers and my literal name on my Twitter was like Quez Watkins corollary, because that is what I was like. Quez Watkins is going to be a dude, period. Like, it's happening, right? It's give him the ball. Deshaun Jackson's dust. John Hightower sucks. Get out of here with all this stuff. And just knowing how empty that Philadelphia receiving room was last year, I was like, just put him on the field, give him the opportunity. And finally, towards the end of the year, he scored a touchdown against Arizona.
Yeah, I remember that.
And now you see him healthy, and now he's starting to make some plays. But like you said, Shane, like, you're going to flip these guys. I'm going to flip Quez, but I'm not going to flip him yet. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait because I know that this receiver room is not going to stay healthy. Arcega-Whiteside ain't going to do shit. Greg Ward ain't going to do shit. And Quez Watkins is going to have a 150-yard game on 3 catches. And then you're going to be like, oh, this is their dude. Boom. There's your draft pick. And that's exactly why. But to bring back undercover prospects, this is exactly why I do the show. You get these guys for free. You get these guys in the 5th round. They boom, they do something. And if they don't, drop them, cut them, do whatever. But flip them first, flip them to a second. If that happens down the road, like a guy in the chat said, Justice Hill happens. Yeah, I know. But flip these guys for a second, first-round pick, and that's how you build your team. You got to hit on everyone. And you got to hit on the back-end guys just as much as you do on the front-end guys to build a team.
Absolutely. Well, look, if you are building a dynasty roster on a budget, then you're going to want to check out Undercover Prospects. If you, like Chase, are wanting to learn the game of golf on a budget, you're going to want to go to budgetgolf.com. Chase, I get you with these ad reads every time, buddy. You never know when it's coming. It's
I love
absolute
it,
favorite.
I love it.
Chase, what's something that you're trying to look for right now to round your golf game and to form you before the end of the summer?
All right, so I went to putt last week, right? And unfortunately, those clubs are absolutely terrible. Kind of reminded me of the club that I have at home myself. So I actually was looking on Budget Golf the other day, trying to find a better putter, to be honest with you. I just need to go out there and get more rounds in, to be honest.
You can get a putter. You can get shoes. They got bags over 50% off. You got everything you need over at budgetgolf.com. We got the link in the YouTube description. We posted up after the show. You can go to Budget Golf. Anything over $150 is free shipping. Make sure to check out budgetgolf.com. We thank them for supporting the show. Shane is apparently morally opposed to sponsorship as part of his anti-capitalist rage. So he has now left the show after the ad read. We hope that he will join us again at some point. While we wait for Shane to come back, I'm going to explain our next little game here. I would say anytime that I try to do any sort of creative game on the show, it's been very mixed reviews. I think when we did the Bumble Boat bios, that was mostly good. When we tried to do the other game, Chase entirely derailed it and didn't understand it. So I'm going to make this as clear as possible, okay? There has been so much training camp news that has gone down, you can't even keep track. If you drafted someone, they probably pulled their hamstring. That's basically how it feels to be on Twitter these days. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run down a bunch of these as we go, okay? I'm going to run them all down to one. We're not going to talk a lot about them. What I want you to do is I want you to pick one, and I want you to give me the proper training camp coping mechanism in terms of a beverage, right? So if you're not too worried about it, maybe you just want to grab a nice little tonic water on ice, have a little sip, right? If you're real worried, you might want to grab the 2-6 at Jameson and get chugging. So we're going to ask you, what do you need to cope with this injury as you read the rap sheet? So here's what we're going to start with. We're going to start with Michael Thomas, who has ghosted the New Orleans Saints organization. You have Michael Thomas on your dynasty roster, Cody. I'm putting you in the hot seat first. How are you coping with this as you get the notification that Michael Thomas has ghosted the Saints? I hilariously got this notification, by the way, literally while I was on a podcast with Matt, arguing about Michael Thomas, and then and it was like we were doing our court scene, this courtroom bit, and it was like we have a new evidence to bring in. Like Michael Thomas has not texted the Saints in 3 months. How are you coping with that, Cody? What's your drink of choice?
As soon as you read that, you're pulling out the tequila.
The David is 6 beers and a bong rip.
Oh,
we'll get to that one. But that was great.
I like that one. But for Thomas, honestly, right away, it's one double shot warm tequila. Because like I hate tequila. Tequila makes me a different person. Like a few things do a lot of different people. Tequila makes me a different person. And I think that's what you're looking at with Michael Thomas. He can be a different person. He can be two-faced. He can be two different things. And we've seen a ton of different things that have came out the last couple of days. Jay Glazer talking to Pat McAfee, inkling that it might not end very well in New Orleans. Maybe we see something good next year out of Michael Thomas. But warm double shot of tequila and I'm out.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you for buying into that. That's awesome. Chase, let's move it over to you. I'm switching this up on the fly. I'm going to throw you in it because anytime that I make adjustments to the show sheet on the fly, Shane gets mad because he's an old crotchety man. But I'm going to assume that you're a little bit more freewheeling, Chase. So Saquon Barkley, now that he's off the PUP list, you have Saquon Barkley on your Dynasty roster. You're happy. What's your celebration drink?
I don't even get to talk about Michael Thomas. Okay.
I want to talk about Michael Thomas. Hold on. I'm jumping
All right,
in
Shane,
because I got the favorite one. Morphine.
Okay, jump
You're
on in.
drinking morphine because he's fucking dead.
Battery
He's
acid.
drawing dead. He's going to be 29 years old by the time he steps on the football field for a team again. He's Antonio Brown without the sexual harassment and abuse claims yet. Dude, he's dead. Dead.
He's getting there. He's getting there.
Your
No, all
turn,
right. So
Chase.
Sorry,
have you guys ever heard of Rumplemints? It is delicious. It's the nectar of the gods. Jesus didn't turn water into wine. He turned water into Rumplemints. When
Good for
God
Jesus.
gave Mary Jesus, he gave it to her throughout Rumplemints.
I don't get the
Rumplemints is absolutely incredible, and it's going to make you have a great night. So guess what? I'm getting blacked out on some Rumplemints tonight. I'm killing a whole bottle of it, and I'm going to enjoy my celebration of Saquon Barkley being ready for week 1.
Oh man, how about this, Shane? I'm gonna let you be negative because that's what you're best at anyway. Denzel Mims is apparently on the roster bubble. How about this? Not even if you have Denzel Mims on your dynasty, if you are Denzel Mims, you wake up one morning, you're told you're on the roster bubble. How are you coping with being on the roster bubble just a year after being a round 2 pick in the NFL draft?
Well, I'm good because at least part of my contract is guaranteed, and I clearly don't care about football. Kind of like Cody was talking about earlier.
Do you think Denzel Mims does not have the dog in him?
I don't have any dog in me whatsoever. Like, first of all, the guy was elated not to come to Philly because we're too tough. He wanted to go to fake New York, the Jets. He was excited to go there, and this is probably why, because he knows this wouldn't have flown in Philly. I don't want to be too morbid. I don't. I mean, I already did morphine. What's worse than morphine?
Shane looks constipated as the comic.
What's worse than morphine? Whatever the drink is that Juliet drank in Romeo and Juliet that killed her. Is that
hemlock? I think.
Yeah, because he's done, dude. I mean, they're talking about cutting a second-round wide receiver.
Crazy.
1 year after
we were talking about that in the group chat. Like, I mean, when was the last time that somebody cut a second-round pick, wide receiver, any position? I mean,
Yeah, I looked it up, and I still don't know.
Justin
Blackman
didn't even get cut,
a couple years. No, and it wasn't performance with him. It was he had mental health issues.
Yeah,
and he tried to self-medicate. So I will never make fun of Justin Blackman. Dude was awesome. He could have been a star. Yeah. Denzel Mims doesn't have it in him. Clearly. He saw that the Jets got some competition, and he was like, you know what, guys, I think they should start ahead of me too. You're right. I'm not even going to try.
It was like when Kerryon Johnson, they're like, Kerryon, do you think you're a workhorse? He's like, nah, man, actually, I think I'm a situational back.
I heard it was actually Denzel Mims that went to the coaching staff and was like, this Keelan Cole guy looks pretty good. Better give him some snaps.
Cody, does Braxton Berrios have that dog in him?
Braxton Berrios? I don't think he does anymore, man. I'm a Miami fan.
Playing ahead of him.
Berrios is he's your poor man's Wes Welker. He ain't nothing. But
man, that's tough.
There's a little dog there, but there's not much.
It's a little dog. It's like a wiener dog. All right, I'm gonna go on this next one. Rashad Bateman today went down in a heap. Look, I have bad luck with sleeping in. There's 2 times that I've stayed up on articles researching until 4 a.m. when I just get a grind going, and I'm up till 4, and then I sleep in till 10. The last time this happened, Cam Akers tore his Achilles. And then this time I wake up and the first thing I see is Rashad Bateman, and the quote was, "in a heap." Look, there has not been a good heap on a Baltimore practice field since Todd Heap. And certainly with Rashad Bateman going down in a heap, that's not good. And then I'm waiting for the confirmation of the injury. And what the first quote was, "he's going to be out a while, but not like a crazy while."
Like a crazy amount of time.
Someone shared that tweet in my patron group mate, and I was just like, so basically you're just saying he's fucked up. We don't know how fucked up.
I remember when Wentz got the injury and they said 5 to 12 weeks. And I was like, that seems really ridiculous. Yeah. But at least that had numbers. We're actually going backwards.
Think about this. We can fly to the moon, right? Which takes you have to leave at a specific time. Like you have to leave the atmosphere at an exact angle, like within centimeters, because if you don't, it'll blow up, all that bad stuff. But we don't know how long Rashad Bateman's going to be out. Like science hasn't come up with that. Like so here's not great.
Wild, but not a crazy.
So here's what I'm on with Rashad Bateman. Look, I'm gonna just take a bunch of shrooms because I want to not live in the reality that I'm currently in. I want to go to a different reality. I want to go to a reality where Cam Akers stole an Achilles, where Rashad Bateman still is unheaped and is not out a while or a crazy while. I want to go back to a world where my Colts quarterback Carson Wentz and his best offensive linemen don't have the exact same injury to the same bone in their foot, which is some sort of weird cursed joke that the world is playing on me.
Jacob, I'm going to cut you off here. So the Bateman thing, the reason it hurts so much, right, is because now this points to him just ended up being a bust. Because if he's going to bust, he's going to bust in year one, right? Because he's not going to play till week 7. And it doesn't matter why you don't put up the numbers. If you don't put up the numbers as a rookie, you generally don't hit.
Well, the odds just got worse, right? Like the odds got considerably worse. If he misses camp, we'll see, right? Like they're saying he might be out there week 1. I doubt it. I think 7 is probably a little bit lengthy, but I don't know. That's more like a crazy while to me. But either way, right? He's going to be behind. And we saw this with Rager last year, right? It's like he comes in, looks great in camp. Then all of a sudden he gets hurt. Then he's behind. Then he gets hurt again, and then he just never catches up. And look, I'm not panicking. I'm not pressing the panic button on Rashad Bateman. I still think he is one of the most analytically perfect prospects in the draft. He went round 1. He looked great on film. He was drawing rave reviews in camp. But I'd rather him not have a soft tissue injury that's going to keep him out at least the rest of camp. It's not good.
Why this shows me that there is no God, because if there is a God, right, why wouldn't he take Miles Boykin? I mean, why? Because
he's not getting any reps.
But why are you going to take Rashad Bateman? You could have taken Miles Boykin at any time. Just if you need an injury,
get him out. Bateman anyways?
Fine.
This was
Miles Boykin, James Prochet,
certainly Sammy Watkins.
Sammy Watkins. I mean, you've done that a lot, right?
Don't take Duvernay from me.
You take Sammy Watkins all the time. Why do you have to take Rashad Bateman from us? It's just there's no God, and that's how I know it, because Sammy Watkins is still going to be running around on the football field in week 1 while Rashad Bateman's on crutches, and I'm just hoping maybe he'll get the cast off and be ready to play next week.
And we've just had 82 people unfollow us on Twitter. So, no, I'm just kidding. No, I mean,
Shane the theologian.
Part of the injury concern was a reason why Bateman was sinking down in some of the rankings overall. And to sit there and look at the Ravens and the Ravens' injury history, it's not good with their wide receivers anyways, whether that's up to the training staff and not getting their players prepped. I think that has to be part of it, along with their draft strategy. But sitting there and looking at it, Rashad Bateman was always going to be concerned that he was going to miss time at some point over the first couple of years. And landing in Baltimore does not help. You sit there and you look at the Chargers, you look at the Colts, you look at the Washington football team. These are all teams that have injury histories, right?
I'm aware of the Colts.
Their organization does not have a great training staff to get their players conditioned. And whether that's up to the training staff itself or up to the coaching and prepping their players, and maybe they're working them too hard, maybe they're not working them hard enough, so you get a ramp-up period as you work your way into the season. I mean, there's issues with organizations and injury histories for a reason. And I think that Rashad Bateman landing to Baltimore with the wide receiver situation just wasn't great.
When did Bateman have injury history in college? I'm just wondering.
he was just dealing with minor injuries. It wasn't anything like crazy, like, missing a game here or there.
I mean,
like,
I'm gonna say
he only took 18 credit hours. Okay, he didn't get a major in injuries. He just got a minor in injuries.
I'm not going to put it on the Baltimore. Jesus Christ, I'm old. Yeah, no, Baltimore. I'm not going to put it on the Baltimore staff because he got injured running around. This isn't like an Eagles situation where, you know what I mean? Like guys are out for 3 weeks and then they bring them back and then they miss 6 more weeks, or a Deshaun Jackson situation where he doesn't get, stomach surgery, comes back, plays one game, and they're like, oops, guess we should have had that fixed up. And you don't see him for another 7 weeks. I mean, I don't think Baltimore's like that. I mean, I wish they had their coaches and their medical staff were a little more convincing and could go to Lamar Jackson and be like, dude, the third time you get COVID, you just automatically like burst into flames or something. But I don't think I'm going to put it on their medical staff.
Cody, how about this? I'll give you one last one. How many beers would you have to tweet in Comic Sans like Michael Thomas?
Oh my God. 14?
Because that's the funniest part about the whole situation is that he did it in Comic Sans to me.
Yeah.
That's what sent me.
I can't remember who somebody posted about that. They were like, it was the Comic Sans that got me, or they said something about the Comic Sans that I can't remember who said it, but he put thought process into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a 16-year-old ex-girlfriend. That's what he is. And
it's tough. It's a tough situation. All right, let's get into the bulk of the show here. Cody, even though I'm the one with the Vikings jersey on here, you're the actual Vikings fan on the show. So we're going to start here. We're going to get into the NFC North preview, of course, from a fantasy perspective, especially from a dynasty perspective. We're going to feel free, any guys, take it any direction you like on any of these teams. But Cody, let's start with you. You're a Vikes fan. How are you feeling about your team so far going into this season?
I mean, I'm not being biased. I'm going to bring this up first. Not being biased. I'm going to be biased. I like the Vikings, right? I think the Packers are obviously the favorite. You're going to see that from everyone, everywhere. Rodgers is back. Aaron Jones is healthy and re-signed, obviously. Devontae Adams, they're strong, but they keep hitting on – they keep drafting cornerbacks and missing other than Jair Alexander. You love Jair. I love what they're doing. But from a Viking perspective, I think the team overall is all in this year. And I've said this a few times talking about the Vikings. It's hard for me not to talk from a biased perspective because my family's had season tickets for so long and I've been to so many games and that point of view. But just from growing and seeing what this team does and how they build, it's usually like a 5-year arc. 5 years of good and then it falls off 5 years bad. And it's 5 years good, 5 years bad. And this This is the end of their window. Their window started to close last year. They kind of fucked it up by going all rookies and all young guys at cornerback. They knew what they did, and Zimmer tried to push it. Injuries to Kendricks, injuries to Barr. Pierce, their free agent, didn't come and play. He left because of COVID. Daniil Hunter didn't play a single game. Xavier Rhodes is gone. This year, they bring everyone in. Patrick Peterson, Daniil Hunter's back. Pierce is back. Tomlinson's in there. The team on defense is going to be substantially better than it was last year. Bashad Breeland was a top 10 cornerback on the player profile rankings last year. Just updated those a couple days ago, actually. You can check those out. But this team overall on defense is stronger. And on offense, if Justin Jefferson, who obviously went down the other day, it wasn't as bad as they said, but if he's healthy, this team overall is going to be – they're not going to be a joke, right? A lot of people are like, I don't think they're going to be good. They're going to suck. They're definitely not going to suck. I think they're going to push 10 wins, maybe 11. I think their number right now is at 9 or 9.5 on FanDuel Sportsbooks. But I'm excited about the Vikings. I think this is the last year before that cliff kind of hits.
Absolutely. We just talked about Justin Jefferson. Like, God has so far taken a lot of great players from us, and we thought he was about to take Justin Jefferson from us. Thank you, God. You are merciful. You allowed us to retain Justin Jefferson. Chase, is there any wide receiver you would rather have in Dynasty right now than Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, I'll still take A.J. Brown over him. He's my wide receiver 1. I like Justin Jefferson. I just want to see 2 years of it, 2 years of heavy production, heavy targets and whatnot. Sometimes we kind of get a little bit overexcited off of year 1 production, and then, defenders start, shading their coverage that way. And they start treating him as wide receiver 1. And essentially, if we start seeing that happen, if Adam Thielen ends up missing time or whatever the case is, that can end up hindering his production if he becomes that wide receiver one and he gets double teamed or bracket coverage, multiple times throughout games. It's just, I like Justin Jefferson a lot. Obviously, he's I think he's top 3 or top 4 in my rankings, but I still have AJ Brown number 1 because I think that he can still dominate regardless of what happens on the other side of the field.
Shane, how are you approaching this Vikings team for Dynasty this year? And what are the guys that what are the storylines you find most interesting? What are you really hoping to see out of the Vikings this year? Is there a person you're particularly attacking in Dynasty outside of the obvious?
What? I mean, Justin Jefferson's my favorite sleeper. I don't know if anyone sees that coming. I'm buying a lot of the backup running back that I'll mispronounce his name.
Kene Nwangwu?
Yes, because I don't believe Dalvin Cook can stay healthy.
Isn't that a type of beef? Kene Wagyu beef?
Wagyu, basically take the N away. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, Adam Thielen's nice at his cost, right? He's probably not going to score 11 touchdowns or whatever he scored.
14, I think.
14. Yeah, you should know this because you did the whole thing on how he's bad at football, but he has a lot of touchdowns, I think. Or I made that up. I don't know. Probably.
No, he did. He did.
Cousins, I mean,
how long do you think Kirk? That's the big question. How long is my guy here? How long is he still starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings?
2 more years, right? Yeah. Like the way they did his contract, he's got to be there 2 more years. I mean, yes, and as we've seen with Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, any contract can be eaten. I just don't think who knows? Anything can happen, but I think Kirk Cousins there at least 2 more years, and he'll put up 2 more QB1 seasons, and he'll continue to be a value in dynasty football, probably until the age of 37. And around 35, people will realize, like, oh my God, this guy's been a QB1 8 straight seasons. Maybe we should pick him up. Kellen Mond, I like Kellen Mond, but he's one of those guys that I'm just going to flip. If Kellen Mond gets a chance to start, I think he'll put up decent numbers, mostly rushing, off platform, off script, and then I'll sell him immediately because I don't think he's a long-term starter.
Cody, I'm curious to your thoughts on this. Look, I put out a tweet when Stafford got traded that people didn't like very much, which was basically, I don't understand why teams are willing to give multiple first-round picks for Matthew Stafford, but yet every year we talk ourselves into Kirk Cousins potentially being benched by week 4, when in my opinion, Kirk Cousins is actually better than Matthew Stafford. What would you say to that? Are you a Kirk Cousins guy?
I am a Kirk Cousins guy, and the reason that I think he gets a lot of kind of shitty like looks and opinions or whatever you want to call it is the offensive line. The offensive line has been dog shit the last couple of years, and it's been a painful last couple of years as a Viking fan because of it. It's like, you need to fix the offensive line and everything will be really answered. Like the team's built strong, and they haven't, and that's why Kirk Cousins has been looked at like he has. But you see last year, I don't have the stats on me right now, but I saw like at the end of last year and the December of 2020, December of 2019, Kirk Cousins was wide receiver 1 in 2020 and quarterback 1, quarterback top 5 in 2019, each of the last 2 years in December. And that's like when you're trying to win fantasy championships. I don't love him, but like it's the value, and he's got the guys, Thielen, Jefferson, Irv Smith, Cook around him. I don't know how you don't take advantage of the value.
You mentioned Irv. Chase, you guys love Irv, right? Shane, you can kick in too if you want. If you want to talk about how much you love Irv Smith.
I love Irv Smith. But before we do, I want to talk about real quick the Vikings and the direction that they're going. They saw their front 7 aging a couple years ago, and they saw how bad their defensive backs were. The defensive backs were getting hurt. They had to hit the reset button because if they weren't, they would be stuck with a horrible salary cap situation, which they were still up against to an extent. However, their GM and the front office does a great job of managing that and also prepping for it. So as Cody brought up earlier in the episode, it actually sets them up for a 5-year window essentially for them to win nonstop. They did a little bit better job of minimizing the rebuild stage. But if you sit there and you look at their draft, right, this could have been like one of the best drafts overall when we look back at it, from a perspective of 3 years, 5 years from now, because Christian Darrisaw, absolute animal. best pick of the entire draft, in my opinion, with Christian Darrisaw. Kellen Mond, I like more than Shane likes. I think he's a game manager, but he can still run. This gives them a whole different dimension in terms of being able to, get the most out of the run game, essentially. Chaz Surratt could be one of the best edge rushers that we see, if not, at least somebody that provides pressure. Wyatt Davis at guard, I think, is completely underrated and can be developed into a starter. Patrick Jones off the edge. Kenny, dude, if he ends up becoming another version of, Cordell Patterson, right, where he's just an excellent kick returner, excellent with the ball in his hands, has that breakaway speed, we could be looking at another animal. I mean, I could literally go on and on and on about how good this team could end up. Meanwhile, they invested a lot of their draft capital last year.
So if everything goes right,
yes, if everything goes right. However, I did like their draft picks, and I think that they got value in every round outside of Kenny, but I think that they were looking at it from a different angle in needs of a special teamer. So essentially, I liked all the value picks. I think that honestly, they got value every single round. I mean, Jacob, you hit in best ball how, you take people that are falling to, and you don't really worry about trying to target somebody or trying to reach for somebody. That's what I feel like the Vikings did outside of Kenny. So I think moving forward, we could actually see a very dominant Vikings team who has a bunch of rookies in places that they need them. Yeah. And so when they go to re-sign players like Justin Jefferson, they're able to offer them a little bit more on their contract because they have the role players in place that are going to be very, very good or great, just not, all pros to this point. So with Kirk Cousins, when we sit there and, rewind into this, they have a guy who they like. They have a guy who can also mentor Kellen Mond and teach him how to be more of a game manager. When Kirk Cousins first came to the league, he was turnover prone. He was literally one of the worst quarterbacks in terms of I do not want this quarterback to play in the fourth quarter. Now he's a guy who manages the game, does a great job not throwing the game away. So sitting there and looking at it, I think that this team is definitely going to be a team that I'm going to invest my picks in over the next couple of years. But I don't think they're going to go anywhere. I don't think that Justin Jefferson is going to go anywhere over the next few years. I think he's still going to be relevant 100%. I think they're going to end up drafting a wide receiver who's going to be relevant and connected to Kellen Mond for multiple years to come. They're probably going to end up drafting a running back early over the next couple of years to replace Dalvin Cook. I love the Vikings organization. I'm investing a lot of draft capital in my fantasy drafts towards the Minnesota Vikings.
Definitely agree with that. Let's move on quick to the Packers. Shane, I'll let you get the first word in here because I already see you. I assume it's you because someone is being rude and snarky in the show sheet, and that seems like it'd probably be you.
I wasn't even remotely being snarky.
It fucking has to. All right, Shane, let's start with the Packers here. Aaron Rodgers is back. Huzzah, hooray. He wore his office shirt. It looks like he hasn't gotten a haircut, and as long as I haven't, he's got his stash. He's looking sexy. Shane, what are you looking for here with the Packers? It seems as though seasonal drafters are expecting that they're going to pick up right where they left off, especially with Rodgers. What are you looking at with the Packers offense this year? And especially in Dynasty, I mean, big talk is what do you do with Rodgers, Adams, Jones? We're probably going to get a great season out of them this year, but they're saying it themselves. It might be the last dance.
Yeah, this is their last dance together. Rodgers is pretty much ensured that he's going to be playing somewhere else next year, though. He's pretty much made Green Bay bow down and say, look, you please come, if you play for us this year, you can do whatever you want next year. We'll give you to the Bears. We will give you to Minnesota. We don't care. Just please play for us this year. Yeah. So I think we're looking at a top 12 season from him. But if you're thinking he's going to give you the season he gave you last year, you're going to be sorely disappointed. He set career highs in touchdown rate, in touchdowns, in completion percentage. He's not going to throw for 45 touchdowns again this year. He's not going to throw for that. He's not. It's going to 48, excuse me. He'll probably throw closer to 40, which is still really, really good. But, the good thing about it, though, is because of all the nonsense that went around him this summer, you could still get him at a fairly decent price. I made a trade last night in a Superflex league where I gave up Mercurial Thomas and Joseph Mixon for Aaron Rodgers. And I was happy as pie with that because I figured 2 more seasons of QB1 over an injured running back that has performed once in 4 years and a wide receiver that's going to be on a talk show next year. Yeah, I'll take that. But their offense is going to regress. I mean, Devontae Adams can't score 18 touchdowns again. As good as he is a high touchdown scorer. Okay, I like that face chase. I mean, even for Devontae Adams, that's high. He's going to fall back probably to a normal-ish rate, 12, 13. He's probably not going to have 1,400 yards receiving. I mean, Randall Cobb's there. So
yeah, I mean, that helps in her.
Get me Cobb. Cody, I'll let you kick off this question here from Toronto Dave. What up, Toronto Dave? Happy to see you here with us tonight. He says, what do you think that I should add to Rodgers to get Herbert? I'm going to assume that this is a super flex dynasty league. Otherwise, you're not adding a first on top to get Herbert. Assuming it is super flex, what would you add to get Herbert? And is that the kind of trade that you would look to make in super flex?
I would. Why not? You don't really know exactly where Rodgers is going to go next year. And it could be the Raiders, where obviously we drafted Bryan Edwards earlier on the early risers, but Henry Ruggs, Darren Waller's aging. You're going to have to probably throw a little more than a first-round pick in there. And I would. Maybe a first and a second, probably first in 2022, maybe a second in 2023 would be my angle. Mm-hmm. And obviously you're going to have 10 more years of Herbert, and your hope is that Herbert is going to only get better than what he was this year. And that would be my angle. But I would definitely do it.
Yeah. I always find this. I think people on Twitter, whenever they message you about trades, you guys are so kind. Like, you guys are always like, what do you think I should add? Would it be enough? And like, look, what's enough is what they'll take that you're willing to give.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So people are like, should I, like, if I could get Herbert for Rodgers in a second, like, should I do that? It's like, yes.
100%.
Okay, but would they take that? Well, maybe not, but like, I don't know, try. Like, right? Like, and then if they say, okay, I want 3 firsts added, then you go, okay, no, I'm going to keep Rodgers. So, yes, I think you should. Is it enough? Yeah. If they say yes, would I add that much more? Myself, no. I don't really love paying for longevity at the quarterback position. I think Rodgers and Herbert are probably going to be similar bets this year. If they start asking me for 2 firsts on top, I wouldn't. I would just then draft a quarterback with my first next year. Yeah. And then I would have Rodgers for as long as I have Rodgers. And then I would just, hope that I'm able to hit on that quarterback pick, right? Because if you're giving up 2 firsts, it's different, right? If you give up Rodgers and 1 first, it's like, okay, the first, if I take a quarterback, it's a 50-50 proposition. Maybe I catch the wrong one, right? And now I'm giving up all that. If you give up 2 firsts, it's like, well, theoretically, even if it's 50-50, you should be able to hit big on one of them and you still get Rodgers. Look, Chase, if you want to address a trade, go for it. And then let's also look, you love AJ Dillon. We know this. I think you're a guy that's a fan of Aaron Jones too. How do you expect this running back room to shake out with now no more Jamal Williams, no more Olaf? Now we bring in AJ Dillon and his Thunder Thighs into the building. How do you think Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon end up scoring this year?
So I'll do this trade real quick. I mean, personally, like if you sit there and you end up with, sending away 2 first-round draft picks, but you're projected because your team is great, you're going to compete, you're going to be a bottom, 3 pick bottom 3 pick in the rookie draft. I mean, you're sitting there and you're looking at what Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, essentially like for and Aaron Rodgers, who has limited amount of time for Justin Herbert. Yeah, I'll take that 100% of the time. I mean, if you're sitting there and you're looking at a dominant player at the quarterback position that can be stable up at the top, like I'm not talking about like a Lamar Jackson who, if he could end up getting hurt or something like that, his career's over. I took a look at the difference between quarterbacks back 5-10 years ago and quarterbacks over the last few years. And we're looking right now at quarterbacks who are not only getting a start by their first or second year in the league. The way that the CBA agreement worked out, it allowed them to be surrounded by these top tier players because they can only receive X amount of dollars on their salary cap. So like Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, they were taking up like anywhere from 8% to 12% of the team salary cap on their rookie contract. Now they're looking at 2, 3, 4% of their team salary cap. So as we sit there and we look at these quarterbacks who can be surrounded by the Keenan Allens and the Mike Williams, and they could probably upgrade the team as well. I am loving some of these younger quarterbacks, especially the ones that are still on their rookie contracts. And if I get a guy that I can get guaranteed for 20 years because they're playing longer now too, you're talking about getting a top, 10 quarterback for 15 out of the 20 years that they play. I absolutely love that. I'm going to take it, 100% of the time. If you're not projected to win and you're going to get a low end or a top 3 pick, that's a whole different animal. But the back end's something that I would much rather take a chance on, a guaranteed option for 20 years.
Absolutely. How about these running backs here, guys?
Yes.
Let's talk Jones and then and Dillon. What are we expecting out of this backfield this year?
I think that it's going to be a 60-40 split. Aaron Jones, even when he was healthy, they would still pull him out of the game in certain points to give him a rest. They did not want to overwork him, and I don't see that changing. I mean, Aaron Jones has 2 years guaranteed or so, I believe. They could end up reworking the contract, but it's essentially a 2 to 3 year contract. I think that they're still going to allow A.J. Dillon to get on the field, and he's way more efficient than Jamal Williams will be. And he catches passes contrary to popular belief. That's
the thing that I've been seeing in practice today, right? Aaron Jones, he's out with a hamstring right now of very unknown severity. I'm hoping it's just a minor thing and it'll clear up. I haven't heard any reports that seem super, super concerned about major damage. But A.J. Dillon was out there. He's catching wheel routes today. Yeah, Cody, what are you getting excited about Quadzilla?
I'm not. I'm getting excited about another player that
let's hear it.
I talked about earlier. I mentioned him. I'm going to say it. Look him up right now. I'm getting opportunities on the special team. He's rising.
Team 1 reps today.
He's getting opportunities. And what did he do in college? Caught the ball. 23 receptions in 3 games last year with 15 rushing attempts. I think one of those games he had I want to say it was 15 receptions in 1 game. So he can clearly catch the ball. But when you look at last year's, split, Jamal Williams had a 36% opportunity share, A.J. Dillon 16, and Aaron Jones 60. So you said 60-40 Jones to Dillon. So you're assuming, I'm guessing, you're assuming Aaron Jones gets the same work, Dillon gets all of Jamal Williams' work. That's where I would disagree with you. I would say Dillon's probably going to go from 16 to probably a 30 or a 28. And you could even see Aaron Jones come down a hair. But I still think that you're still going to get a third guy in there, especially a guy like Kylan Hill, who, yeah, I know we love A.J. Dillon and he catch the ball, but they're going to want a guy like Kylan Hill back there that literally resembles what Jamal Williams is and was. I think he's going to be a pain in the ass. I'm not saying he's going to do a lot, but he's going to be a pain in the ass year 1 especially.
Shane, you're always a pain in the ass. What do you make of this backfield?
Yeah, I lean sadly and regrettably towards Chase's side, unfortunately, where I think I hate to agree with Chase ever. So I just wish I could have one.
Especially with the mustache.
Yeah, like a freaking pedo. Anyway, no, I look. I think
okay, that needs to be NSFW.
Oh, we're gonna edit that. Okay, we're editing. It's fine. Anyway, I think it's definitely gonna skew towards kind of what we saw with Jamal Williams. Except that I think A.J. Dillon is better than Jamal Williams, and I like A.J. And I like Jamal Williams probably more than most people because no one likes him.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, and just for dynasty purposes,
and he's just fun, dude. He's so fun.
I like
boisterous.
But I've been grabbing A.J. Dillon all over the place this year, especially now that everyone had their feelings hurt when Aaron Jones didn't leave, so they've completely given up on life. Like, all right, well, A.J. Dillon is never going to get a chance now, and you're like, dude, Jones's contract's really structured for 1 year, but whatever. Yeah, no, sell them to me cheap. I think it'll skew that way. I do.
I'm with both of you.
Are you gonna cut me off?
No, you go for it, Shane. Finish.
I was going to say anything.
Sorry,
and Aaron Jones is always banged up, but he plays, so he's not going to miss any time.
I'm with you guys here. I think Aaron Jones, he's definitely the guy. They didn't pay him $48 million to not be the guy, so he's obviously the guy. But they use him as a weapon, right? Like they're going to give him, 12 to 15 carries. They're going to get him 4 to 7 targets. I'm more excited about Aaron Jones this year than I've ever been, and I'm always excited about Aaron Jones. He is one of my favorite running backs ever. I have an Aaron Jones jersey from when he went and literally he got me into the fantasy playoffs in my home league last year on that 80-yard run against the Eagles. He put my team on his back like a Greg Jennings, and he brought me into the playoffs. I love Aaron Jones. But I'm more excited about him ever than this year because I know as an Aaron Jones owner, as much as I love Jamal Williams, one of my least favorite sights in the world was turning on the 2-minute drill and seeing Jamal Williams in that ponytail on the field. And I go, fuck. This guy. It aggravated me so much. Who's not going to be on the field in 2-minute drill? A.J. Dillon. It's not going to happen.
He's running wheel routes.
So
I think wheel routes.
Yeah, well, you know why? Because Aaron Jones is working with the training staff. When he comes out with there is a better chance that the training staff member who's massaging Aaron Jones's hamstring will be in the 2-minute drill, then AJ Dillon will be in the 2-minute drill. I think Jones is going to get a lot more of that work. Dillon might get some of the goal line work, but I want that pass volume on Jones.
Remember that sometimes coaches do strange goddamn things that make absolutely no sense, like Doug Peterson having Jordan Howard in the 2-minute drill instead of Miles Sanders, like things like that, where you're just like, wait, that I don't quite understand this, but I'm just saying.
If anything, though, it's Cody's guy, probably Kylan Hill, that would work in the 2-minute drill ahead of AJ Dillon, I think.
I don't think so. I think that we're sitting there and we're looking at Aaron Rodgers hating rookie running backs. Like, he does not want a rookie back there protecting, regardless of how efficient they work.
Point.
I mean, Eddie
He's
Lacy,
a bitter little bitch who gets what he wants these days.
Yep. I mean, Eddie Lacy was last rookie who actually started above like 8 games as a rookie running back. I think Jamal Williams was up there.
Basically the 6th lineman based on.
Yeah, I mean, the dude was like 240 or something like that. So of course, he was back there to block. But essentially, I mean, we're not going to see a rookie running back, I don't think, come in and try and protect Aaron Rodgers on 3rd downs. I think it's going to take some time.
All right, we're going to pick out the pace here, going to hyper mode. We got 2 teams left. Let's start with the Bears. Pretty obvious first question. Cody, when will we see Justin Fields at Soldier Field taking snaps?
I want to say week 1.
All right.
Why not? Why not? He's better than Dalton. He's doing everything there is. You're going to open up – where do they open up at? In L.A. against the Rams, Sunday Night Football. Stafford Fields, fuck it, send him out there. You're likely – fuck it. Why not? Right? That's the move. That's the move.
You don't want to get him killed, man. But, I mean, that's what they did with Tua last year. Tua started up against the Rams as well. So, I mean, and I didn't think that would ever happen. I was like, what are they doing there? I think they were 3-2 at the time, the Dolphins were. And then Shane just talked about how coaches do weird things that just don't make any sense. They sent Tua out when the team was, I think, 3-2. And
the only other thing, if you don't go week 1, week 2 you really can't, because then Dalton would have to play against the Bengals because he just would have to.
Yeah. And week 3.
And then the week 3 is the Browns, and then week 4 would be the only other option. But I still think if you want to win, no, I'm still going week 1, because if you want to win, and obviously I'm not a Bears fan, but if you want to win, and this team is also on that weird spot where Allen Robinson could be gone in a flash, and you need to win now. And if they need to win now, Rams are a team you're going to need to beat to get in the playoffs. And if they can send out their best talent, you're going to do it. You got to do it.
I have him coming in the second half of the Browns game. He's going to play half the Browns game.
Wow, that's super specific.
That is precise. And if you get it right, I will remember that you said that at 56:50 of this show, because that will be an impressive call. Shane, where do you land on this?
Go put that down on DraftKings and parlay it with something else.
Shit.
Yeah, I got him week 4. Although Cody's probably right. I mean, I hope he's right for Matt Nagy's sake. Like, dude, you just drafted this guy. Like, he fell to you. Like, God is trying to save. If there is a God, you believe in him.
Shane, have you been spending a lot of time at church lately? That's the second time
that's
you've had a
where
God
I've been
rant.
the last couple Tuesdays. I've actually been at church.
You've been in the convent?
Yes.
How do you solve a problem like Manila? Have you ever seen Sound of Music?
No, I have not.
What?
No.
There's nobody on the show that's seen The Sound of Music.
No.
Following my take, we're at 56:50.
Yeah. No. Anyway,
singing.
I'm gonna go with. But if not week 1, I'm going to go with week 4, because they're going to be heading in either 1 and 2 and going, oh shit, we need to get the kid in there now, because the season's going down the shitter, and Andy Dalton really is as bad as we thought he was, or he's not as good as they'll just. If not week 1, it's going to be by week 4.
Thank you, Dave. You saw The Sound of Music. Look, my parents, who I love dearly. My mom left Winnipeg, Canada for a while to go run a bar in the Dominican Republic when she was dating my dad. And she said, if you haven't seen The Sound of Music, then if I ever come back from the Dominican Republic, I won't marry you. And she came back from the Dominican. He had seen The Sound of Music, and they've lived happily ever after. So you guys should all go watch The Sound of Music. It's an incredible movie. It's clearly at the forefront of this Bears talk. Look, 2 guys that are getting a lot of hype in fantasy circles are Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet. If you had to pick one of them to actually be a legitimate breakout stud and one that you're tossing on the block in a quick 30-second fashion, which one are you keeping? Which one are you tossing on the block? Chase, you haven't talked on the Bears yet. I'll let you go here first.
Oh, I love Darnell Mooney. I mean, we sit there and we look at his, pretty much empty deep targets last year because guess what? When we talk about Nick Foles, he just could not hit him. Mitchell Trubisky was far more accurate, and I don't have the stats in front of me, but
isn't that a depressing statement about Nick Foles that you have to say Mitch Trubisky was far more accurate?
He was so good when he was targeting Darnell Mooney. It was actually weirdly, very oddly good. So when we sit there and we look at it, I mean, I still have very, very major concerns about this offensive line and about even Justin Fields when he starts, because he's going to start even, with Justin Fields and his deep ball accuracy and how pretty that ball is. I still have concerns about the offensive line getting in his face, forcing some errant throws. But I mean, Darnell Mooney, he was getting open time after time after time after time, and he's going to be a stud in this league. He was one of my favorite receivers coming out of 2020, and I think that honestly, he could be a top 24 option, no doubt, and potentially top 12 option at least a couple times throughout his career.
Mooney or Kmet, Cody?
I'm keeping Mooney and I'm selling Kmet because Jimmy Graham is still there. We saw this in Tennessee. We tried to force Jonnu Smith into a situation too early, and Delaney Walker took advantage of it. I think Cole Kmet's – we're going to be mad in 3, 4, 5 weeks into the season after Jimmy Graham is still being a pain in the ass. Cole Kmet, you can sell now, buy him next offseason when people are still down on him. Mooney, I love Mooney for every reason that you just said.
How about you, Shane?
Yeah, I'm not I like Kmet fine. He's fine, but I'm not all about tight ends. That showed me a little bit. We love extrapolating. Did you see those 2 games where if you extrapolate that over the season, he would have had 1,000 yards and 115 receptions? And you're like, dude, he ended up with
Rooney. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's awful.
Don't do that.
But he ended up with 15. But he had 16 catches on the season, guys. So I like Mooney. I mean, Mooney, and you look at his stats, man. You don't even realize. You're like, dude, the dude put up over 600 receiving yards as a rookie. He's a 5th round rookie, whatever he was. Very late, bad quarterback situation. It's hard not to like Mooney.
Look, I asked this because I figured you guys would like Mooney. Everybody loves Mooney. Here's why I don't like Mooney. It's not that I don't like Mooney. People like Mooney too much. People are trading first for Mooney. I've seen 3 separate people trade Rondale Moore for Mooney.
Oh my God.
Look, Darnell Mooney, great guy. What's the quote from Glenn Ross? It's like, good father, fuck you, go home and play with your kids. Great guy who gives a shit. Darnell Mooney is a 5th round pick, okay? We just talked at the very beginning about these undercover prospects. We love them. When they pop, you sell them because the floor is so low. Everybody wants Mooney to be Stephon Diggs. I would love Mooney to be Stephon Diggs. There is nothing I love more than watching a guy who slipped through the cracks, who should have been given more credit by the National Football League, go and prove them wrong and succeed. However, usually this story ends with Darius Slayton. Usually the story ends with Preston Williams. The problem with a guy like a Mooney is that the value floor isn't there. If he goes out, he disappoints. Or if he's just average, then teams replace that guy. Teams stop playing that guy because they're not tied to him. There's no sunk cost. Is it possible that Mooney goes out and dominates? Totally possible. But I just struggle to see how, if you're giving a stud rookie wide receiver, you're giving a first, you're giving what it costs to get Mooney in most of these leagues for Mooney. That's just dicey for me. I think you're playing a very dangerous game and you're wish casting a little bit. The best time to get Darnell Mooney was last summer. And if you don't have Darnell Mooney right now, I think you probably should just make your peace with that.
Agreed.
Yeah, real quick. Yeah, if you're doing shit like buying Darnell Mooney this year, you're bad at Dynasty football. I'm sorry. If you're getting him for a late 2nd, 3rd, whatever, and then the 2nd was in this draft class, fine. But if you're trading Rondale Moore for him, just stop playing. Take a year off and just reevaluate what you're doing. Stop chasing.
You want them to do the COVID opt-out?
Yeah, just for a year.
For a year.
I think the move is to keep Mooney, sell him when you can, and wait on Kmet. I think Kmet's going to be a guy, but I think we're a year early still.
Yeah, and I don't like that Jacob gave himself all these caveats. Well, people are trading first for Mooney. We didn't say that about Kmet. You're just if someone's going to give you a first for him, take it. Well, no shit.
Yeah. Shane, do you know how hard it is to be in the host chair every week? Yeah. I got Chase rambling on, saying when you sit down and you look at things all the time. I got that's your say. Do you know that, by the way, Chase? You know when you sit down and look at it?
Nope.
You love to sit down and look at it.
I have not edited a podcast in a few months, so obviously I picked that up.
I got Shane going through my show sheet saying things like Jeremy Ruckert had 13 catches. I don't know why.
He was the third leading wide receiver at Ohio State. Justin Fields.
This is what I have to deal with. I'm looking at this sheet. It says more likely to break out, Mooney or Kmet. And then Shane
Jeremy
says,
Ruckert.
do you know who had the third most receptions for Ohio State? Jeremy Ruckert, 13, but still. And I choose not to discuss 2019. I don't understand where that even came from. The man, like, he just, right? My job is hard, is what I'm saying. And so what I get out of this as a benefit is I get to set you guys up to say things that I'll disagree with and then reframe and twist your words against you. That's the benefit that I get of being in the host chair for putting up with your shit. Let's look at the Lions.
When you sit down and you look at it, right? Like the whole concept.
All right, let's quickly talk Lions. Cody, we talked a little bit about DeAndre Swift very briefly on early risers between the ping pong balls. You said you were a little bit more out on Swift early, but you've been coming around on Swift. You're seeing that upside. I know he's been dealing with a groin recently, which feels like a kick to my groin when I read that. Let's assume that he gets healthy. Let's assume that he's all good to go by week 1 and a little in advance of that. Do we get this bell cow Swift role? Is he an A back? Is he a B back? Is he a Z back? What is there? Alpha, Data, Kappa back?
I mean, I see. The thing I told you was I was out early on him, and then the more I thought about it, it reminded me too much. And this was kind of with Kamara now, with the Saints presumably getting worse. I don't say they're going to be bad, but presumably worse than what they were. The Lions are going to be kind of in the same situation Carolina has been in the last 4 years. McCaffrey has absolutely eaten in that opportunity. And I'm not saying Swift's going to have 140 targets, 9 per game, but he had 4.5 per game last year. If that bumps up to 6-7 a game, you're looking at 100 targets. You're looking at 200 carries. You're looking at 300-plus touches on a team that sucks, losing most games. You're going to have a guy that's going to be easily an RB1 in fantasy. And at his current value, I don't know how you don't like that. It's one that it took me a minute to get over with because of the injuries. And now they're kind of rearing their head, which I hate. But, I like Swift. I don't love him. I
want the soft tissue stuff to stop, like in general, but especially for Swift. I love Swift. He was, I definitely have Taylor ranked out of him now. I admit I was wrong, but going in last year's rookie class, Swift was my RB1 in the class. I was all about DeAndre Swift coming out of Georgia. My only fear now is we're starting to see it stack up, right? It's a 22-year-old back, and he didn't handle a full workload in college. I don't hold that against it because it's Georgia and they do weird things. Like they don't care who they have. They just sort of rotate guys through and preserve them. And then you get into the NFL. He had the injury in camp last year. People kind of forget that. Yeah. He was injured all of training camp last year. He barely practiced in training camp. So when you look at a slow start last year, you have to put that in that context. Then he comes out. He finally starts firing. I think he ended up with, what was it? He had like a hip injury at something he was battling. Then he got concussed. Then he had COVID. Obviously, that's a bit of a different story. Then you get into this groin injury this year. Shane, are you into Swift as a top 5 running back? And when you're looking at the Lions, of course, I'm saying top 5 in Dynasty, not for 21. When you're looking at the Lions, who's jumping off the screen most to you?
TJ Hawkinson. I'm absolutely in.
You like the new hairdo?
I don't even care what his hair looks like, dude. As long as he has a head so that he can run routes, that's all I give a shit. So he can get out there and get his 150 targets and put up 110 receptions this year. And everybody's like, "Oh, Shane, you were right when you were telling us like he's top 3 tight end this year." And I'll be like, "I know. Just listen to me more often, dumbasses."
Agreed.
Yeah, TJ Hawkinson. Look, usually I don't like to be the guy. Well, opportunity. Because there are other players there. It's just that they all happen to be really bad. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Quentin Cephas is somehow the wide receiver 5 on the depth chart. Like, that's not great. Because like physically, like talent wise, he should be the wide receiver 2 at worst on that team. But
you don't like the Gazelle?
No. So Hawkinson, Goff loves tight ends, right? Yeah. He happens to have an excellent one in TJ Hawkinson, a metric freak. Early breakout, he's literally perfect prospect in college, right? He was like Kyle Pitts, except not Kyle Pitts hyped when he came out, because he also came out with Noah Fant. He had to share a field in college with Noah Fant, and if he didn't, it'd be pretty incredible to think what he could have done at Iowa State. Swift, I like Swift a lot. I can't put him in the top 5 though. Partly because Hawkinson's going to see a ton of targets and they're going to kind of cannibalize each other. Partly, there's a lot of injuries there, and partly because their head coach is a moron and he's going to be out of there within 2 years.
I kind of like Dan Campbell. I'm not going to lie. I'm buying into Dan Campbell.
I kind of like a really fun guy, but he's dumb as a bag of hammers.
I don't know. I think he's onto something.
Mm-hmm.
He's a dog.
No. He's not going to be out of the league in 2 years. He's not Mike Tyson.
He's not. Not only does he have the dog in him, he has the lion in him.
I know you guys are too young for this, but there used to be a show called Coach. He's Dauber. All right, check that out sometime. But I do like Swift. I have him in my top 10 for dynasty running backs. I just don't have him at 5 because if I have you at 5, that means I can see a path to you being the running back.
Yep.
1. So I don't want to act like I'm super low on Swift by any stretch of the imagination. I think he is top 10, easily has top 10 upside. It's just I don't see him with a path to being the running back 1.
Chase, I already know that you like Swift as much as I like Swift, but I put out a tweet. I'll let you talk in a second. Give me a second.
No, you're good.
I put out a tweet about the Lions this week because I knew we'd be talking about the Lions on the show, and I can't believe when I go to my underdog exposure and I look at how many Lions I draft, it makes me feel a little sick, to be honest with you. But I'm in on the Lions. I think the market is treating them like Texans North. They're treating them like they're going to be a complete dumpster fire. What if they're not that bad? I know I'm not saying they're going to be good. What if they're not that bad? Their defense sucks. They're going to be constantly on the field. They're going to be playing hurry up. They're going to be chasing points. People love to dunk on Anthony Lynn, and they should. He can't manage a clock to save his life. But since when did we get the idea that he's a bad offensive coordinator? Anthony Lynn has coordinated functional offenses around Tyrod Taylor as the quarterback. He had pretty good offenses when he was with the Chargers. I don't think he's a genius or anything, but he's not the stone worst offensive coordinator in the world. He's not Dirk Cutter. You got a great offensive line. You got Swift. You got Hawkinson. I personally really like Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he's legit good. I think the NFL made some ridiculous decisions drafting these jabroni wide receivers over him and letting him get to the 4th round. What do you think of this Lions team? Could they surprise us, Chase?
So I don't think they're going to surprise us in terms of record or anything like that.
No, God, no. They're going to win games.
When it comes to fantasy points, absolutely. When it comes to Anthony Lynn, he gets the most out of all of his players not named Joe Reed. Period. Jared Goff, meanwhile, was targeting tight ends, by the way, to Shane's point. He had 111.24 quarterback rating, completed 81 out of 111 passes, 908 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception in 2020. And that's with Gerald Everett, Tyler Higbee, and Johnny Mont. So, Hawkinson's way above those guys. So we can see those targets translating.
Double those guys. So you'd have to have 6 of them on the field at one time to equal one Hawkinson.
He uses those guys as a comb for his lion's mane.
And they have on top of that, they had Robert Woods. They had Cooper Kupp over there for the Rams last year. He had other options to throw to. That's not going to be the case for the Lions.
If Robert Woods walked into the Lions camp right now, they would induct him into the Hall of Fame with how bad he would make the rest of their wide receiver room look.
100%. So sitting there and looking at it, I love Hawkinson. He's a top 3 tight end undoubtedly this upcoming year. But I do like DeAndre Swift more. We saw Austin Eckler in his last year with the Chargers and Anthony Lynn, or last year, I should say. He had over 100 snaps in the slot. I think that Swift could easily crush that. I think that, we could see 150 to 200 snaps in the slot this upcoming year. They've already flat out said, hey, guess what? He's so good that although he's, might not be on the field as a running back 100% of the snaps, he's still going to be on the field as much as we can get him on the field because they can't leave that talent off. So guess what?
And who's going to keep him off? Khalif Raymond?
He's going to be the slot receiver over there. Jamal Williams might get some snaps at running back. He's going to be the slot receiver, and I could actually see him going over 100 targets this upcoming season.
Yeah, I think the Jamal Williams stuff, I like Jamal Williams. I've drafted about 15% Jamal Williams in best ball. I'm not afraid to admit that. I think he's a really fine running back. But I think Swift is A-okay. The last thing you need your running back to get, we're just talking about injuries. All the show we've been talking about injuries. The last thing you need your running back to get is a 3-yard handoff on their own 25-yard line. What does that accomplish for your team? We want them to get goal line touches, which maybe there's a little bit of worry about that. But Swift was really, really efficient last year on the goal line. We want them to get receiving work. He's going to get that. But that's what we want. We want big plays, and we know that he can provide that. That's unless there's any final words on the Lions. That pretty much does it. Cody, you got something for us?
I got a question. I want to go across the board real quick.
Oh, let's hear it.
Where does TJ Hawkinson end at targets? Because I'm looking right now at the NFL record for most targets by a tight end, and it's Ertz, Gonzalez, Kelsey, Gonzalez. 156, 155, 154, and then 150, 150. Does he eclipse 156? There is an extra game this year, obviously, as we all know. Does he clip 160? Does he set the record?
No, I got him. I don't do projections, but I worked it out over the summer for some reason. I did an article on him, and I had him at about 140, which is still an absurd amount.
I was going to say that's still Waller last year, Gates, Grant, Witten. That's like still
it's an insane amount. Yeah. Even in 17 games.
Go ahead, Jacob.
Oh, I was going to say I'm projected 144 targets. I have the Lions at about 37 pass attempts per game. I don't think that they want to be that pass heavy. I don't think they have a choice. I think they're going to start the second quarter down 14-3 often. And then I have TJ Hawkinson at a 23% target share.
I have him right at 146. However, if something happens to Swift with these soft tissue injuries, I mean, we saw him get out with a concussion for 3 weeks last season. If something happens to Swift, I think that he could easily eclipse 160 because guess what? They're not going to have anybody else to throw to. I think that Swift does play a major role in this receiving game. But by the way, real quick, their offensive line last year was 10th in run blocking, 13th in pass blocking. They added Penny Sewell. We're going to see probably the best offensive line or second best offensive line Jared Goff's ever played with before. So he will have some time to go through his reads, and those other receivers aren't going to get open. So even if you have Tyrell Williams as your first read, you have Rashad Perryman as your first read, you're going to end up pivoting over to Hawkinson and over to Swift, and he's going to have time to actually get it to those guys. So I honestly think that Jared Goff is actually going to be slightly better than what most people are estimating. I don't think he's going to be great by any stretch, but I do think that these two players, I think they're going to be two leading receivers on the team when it comes to receptions or targets, at least.
And what's the rep on Goff, right? Like we know who Goff is. When he has a clean pocket and he has reads in front of him and he has receivers that he can see that are open, he's actually pretty good. Like when you just let him 5-step drop, set your feet, play action, see it, throw it, he's not that bad.
Wait. Well, let's rephrase it. Right? So when everything is perfect, he's not that bad.
This is the second time Shane has explored that.
Okay, well, how about this? If Jared Goff could do things good when it's not perfect, they wouldn't have been paying their entire future to get rid of him. Yeah. I'm not saying, look, he's not all that great, but he's good when the O-line is good, and this O-line is good. Cody, what do you think? Is he going to break the record?
I haven't done my projections yet. I'm planning to start those next week, literally. But I don't see him going over 156, that's Zach Ertz from 2018. I think he's going to fit right in what you guys said, 140 to 146. That's 10th to 15th all time. And I think that's a good spot for him considering you have the extra game. If he's healthy all the way through, I don't see how he doesn't break 140.
I wrote an article on it.
He's going to get more targets than George Kittle.
Yeah, I wrote an article for it on Player Profiler, actually, how it talked about we've never seen anything like this. Like the closest thing that we saw was Antonio Gonzalez, back in his third season. So typically tight ends have a tendency to break out in their third year. We still have second year breakouts from time to time, but their third year is really when they start to break out. I think we had 36 total tight end one finishes over the past 10 to 20 years in their third year. So we see these players constantly break out in their third year at the tight end position. However, when you go back and I went through every single tight end in their third year who finished as a tight end one, and the only one that did not have like a real wide receiver one was Gonzalez. So, and he still had two good receivers at the time. I don't remember who exactly they were, but he still had two very, very good receivers at the time. I just don't think that they were like, difference makers essentially. So as we sit there, we look at it to not have.
Hey, there it is. Sit there, look at it.
I was going to make a joke about it earlier, and then I actually started talking for real, and there it goes again. So no, when we sit there and we imagine things, I think that Hawkinson could realistically be in uncharted territory, which makes it even more difficult to put a projection, because is it more difficult for him to get open because he doesn't have other targets? Is it easier for him to get more targets because there's not as much competition? It's going to be difficult to foresee that with a new quarterback, with a new system that they're running. I mean, trying to project this, it could be 20 different variations of results.
Yeah, the good thing for him, though, is he's a tight end. So, I mean, even if you try to double him, you're going to screw yourself because they're going to be running into traffic and like just taking each other out, you know? So, and you can't, it's like, all right, well, then we'll put a cornerback on him. And then Detroit will be like, all right, well, then I'm just going to show short intermediate stuff and let him just absolutely destroy your cornerback. So, you know, no matter what they do, it's not going to be great for them.
My only concern about Hawkinson is I think what we're failing to project is that his yards after the catch are just going to come down because it'll be so easy to tackle him by the hair. And I don't think we're properly factoring that into the projections.
All right. Remember the Thanksgiving game when he actually got a pass wide open, right? Yeah. And he had to line up the sidelines. And he was like, he literally had a straight line that he could have taken. And the safety came from the other side of the field. And instead of him just running straight for the end zone, he ran towards the safety. And I'll never forget that play.
He did the opposite of Rickon Stark. Do you guys watch Game of Thrones? Yeah. So remember when Ramsey Bolton is shooting arrows into the sky and Rickon runs straight and he just allows himself to get hit by arrows, right? If he just zigzags, then it'd be impossible for Ramsey to hit him with the arrows. Hawkinson did the opposite. If he ran straight, but instead he ends up getting tackled like a loser. All right, I'm a wrap here. We're an hour 20. Cody and I already did an hour show, so Cody and I are like 2.5 hours in. Cody, you're a trooper for sticking with me for that long. Cody, where can the people find you?
Find me at Carpentier NFL on Twitter, on Patreon, and that's pretty much where all my stuff's at. I'm on Player Profiler. We just did a underdog draft with the staff at Roto Underworld. Jacob was a part of that. That article recap is going to be coming out in the next couple days. So be on the lookout for that. But everything else, we're just getting ready for the season, getting the game analyst squad ready, and that's what I'm doing right now.
That is awesome stuff. Chase, where can people find you?
Oh, man. All right, so you guys can go check out our content over there at fantasyintervention.com. Once again, that's fantasyintervention.com. We actually have Mike putting out a couple articles. Mike Valverde, he's doing questions for the AFC. So I'm excited to see his brand new one that should be out in the next couple of days for the AFC West. Meanwhile, he just came out with the AFC South, which is very intriguing. Meanwhile, we're actually going to be releasing the dose score coming up here soon. Talking about pass catching running backs and, looking into whether certain defenses actually have an advantage of stopping pass catching running backs based off their system or based off their players. So go check it out over there at fantasyintervention.com. You guys can find us on Twitter over there at @joinourcircle_. Once again, that's @joinourcircle_. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube page, youtube.com/fantasyintervention. You guys can go check out all of my content over there on @FF_intervention. And make sure you guys go check out @SomeYards on Twitter. We're going to be launching that off hopefully in 2 days, where we actually are going to be teaching kids with special needs how to play fantasy football. We did it last year. It was a great success. We're going to be doing it again this upcoming season. Get together on Mondays, just have a live chat and just talk about what happened this past weekend, what's going to happen. Yeah, go check it out @SomeYards. We're teaching kids with special needs how to play fantasy football and getting some interaction going. It's a lot of fun.
I absolutely love that, Chase. That is one of the greatest things that we got going on in this industry. I'm so happy that you're bringing that back. Shane, really quick before I ask where I can find you, how did I miss this? We just talked about the Lions. Cody, I didn't even get a Jamar Jefferson take from you. Josh Moore in the chat is way more on the ball than I am. Munchie King, the guy.
Is he going to do something this year? I don't know, but I did just read an article the other day that said that he was getting the majority of first-team reps with one DeAndre Swift out. And if you know, his best comparable on playerprofiler.com is Jamal Williams, baby. That's all you need to know.
There it is. Shane, where can the people find you?
Here every Tuesday. Well, most Tuesdays.
You can't say that after you miss.
Okay, most Tuesdays you can find me here, but that's subject to change. Dynasty Trade.
You're like Aaron Rodgers. We missed you so much that we renegotiated your contract so that you can now leave us at any time.
Dynasty Trades HQ podcast. Join the Patreon because it's more fun than the one that you don't pay for. Mannequin Chill. DLF YouTubes, and then when I feel like writing, which is not often anymore, you'll find me writing for Dynasty League football.
He said, join the Patreon because it's more fun than the one you don't pay for.
It is. I mean, I'm not going to lie.
I've seen him. Hey, do you not listen to Dynasty Trades HQ? Because that is about like the nicest way he's ever described the Patreon. The best was he said, please join the Patreon so I'm nice to you because I am a hooker. Wait, sorry, that's inappropriate. Sex worker.
Wait, did Cody just mouth what the fuck?
He's watching something on television, I think. That's what that was.
All right. Thank you, Cody, for putting up with our absolute banana stuff for an hour and a half. Thank you for podcasting with me for 2.5 hours tonight. Chase, of course, thank you coming every week. And Shane, thank you for rejoining our podcast. It truly is lovely to see you, buddy. I love you. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your night. You can find me on Twitter, FF_RTDB. You can find my written work up on playerprofiler.com. I'm pretty sure I'll have a piece coming out very soon on the anatomy of a league-winning best ball stack any day now. And we'll have part 2 coming up to that on the best stacks for 2021, following just shortly after that one. So everybody stay tuned to all of us on the socials, and we will see you next Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.